Welcome back. All right, so next what I want to do with you guys is I want to really take apart these notices that we looked at and look at a couple others. And I really want to help you to understand clearly in your mind why you want to learn how to do this. If nothing else, you need to learn how to do this. And all by itself, understanding what a notice is and how to put together a proper lawful notice for whatever your situation is, it's powerful. Look, I've helped numerous people with this. Okay, again, I haven't had to use this stuff in a courtroom because the letters work so well, and the principles that you need to learn in order to put together a proper notice are going to apply to every other situation. You'll need to take different actions, right, in order to make use of this knowledge, in order to put those principles to work. But again, you can accomplish a lot with these notices. So that's what we're going to really focus on before we get into any of this other stuff that relates to common law and the courts and all that. Because first of all, it's much, much more complicated. I have less experience with it. We're going to do some learning together on that. I'm hoping to get a little bit of Q&A going on. Maybe people will even ask some questions in the comments, like about situations they have, and then I can then make a video and address that and other concerns, right? So I encourage you, if after watching this video and the next one, because I'm sure I'm going to have to break it up, you've got questions or ideas or a situation that you'd like to bring up, I'm going to want you to reach out in the comments and again, maybe we'll touch upon that. So never forget that we're dealing with philosophy, right? Jurisprudence, okay? Philosophy of law. Every single individual on earth and every single nation on earth has a jurisprudence, a philosophy of law. Whether they want to call it that or not, there is a philosophy of law. Like one philosophy of law might be that the king or the queen is divinely appointed, right? They've been appointed by God as the special one who then gets to pass laws on down to their underlings who are apparently under them, I guess, in the sight of the creator maybe. I don't know. But that's their philosophy of law, right? Like in a monarchy or a dictatorship. Okay, and you are expected to obey the divinely issued commands of the divinely appointed ruler, right? Obviously, thankfully, we have something different going on here. So the philosophy is so important. It's so important to read Jefferson, Thomas Paine, Cicero, John Locke. I mean, the names go on, but it's so important to read the philosophy that underpins common law and America, specifically American jurisprudence, right? That's going to help you understand these notices. So without further ado, let's dive into one of these notices and really pick it apart. I want to whip out this one here that I made for a fella named George. All right, now George, he had a debt that was claimed again. Someone claimed a debt, right? And I believe it was the New York State Department of Education. I believe was the original entity that wanted to claim that he owed a debt, right? And so here's the notice. This is actually the fourth notice. And you'll notice, no pun intended, that it actually doesn't go to the Department of Education. Why is that? So this is key. Pay attention. Generally speaking, in most cases, corporations, right, artificial persons, right, fictitious entities, they don't really go after people for money. They might send you some letters, may give you some phone calls, but they're not going to come after you through the legal system in most situations. What they'll do is they will basically sell the debt that they believe you owe. They will sell that to a debt collector, an entity whose business it is to collect debts, right? And so that's why you'll get letters, notices, and it's always a notice. Take note of that. Take notice. It's always a notice because this is a lawful document. This is ancient stuff. Let me make this really clear. None of this is my idea. None of this is even Jefferson's idea. None of this is Cicero's idea. This stuff goes back to time immemorial. Okay? Time immemorial. I'll prove that to you in a minute. Let's just go through George's notice here. Right? So this is the fourth notice I sent for George, or with George. I helped him compose it. To these line barger people. Okay, excuse me, that was the other one that I squished for him. This is Reliant, okay? George had a few issues. So Reliant was the debt collecting company for the Department of Education. He owed him some $4,000 or something like that, supposedly, allegedly, right? So what are we doing here? Notice. That's really important, right? Right at the top, notice. That makes it a lawful notice. If it doesn't say that, it's something else. Notice. I, me, my. What did we just do there? Well, you look at that colon. What is it? What is I, me, my referred to? A man. Oh, neat. George Doe. That's what the colon signifies. What? A man what? A man known as George Doe. Got it. at, and his address would be there at. This language is not critical, but it's a good idea. It helps keep your mind in the right place. First of all, you're defining for them the language that you're about to use. We're not doing it exhaustively. Sometimes you need to do that, like in a court. But in this letter, we can keep it a little more casual. We're just making sure that they understand that anytime they see I, me, and my, that's referring to a man. Not a person in all caps, not a dead entity written with black ink. No, a man, a living man known as George Doe. That's I, me, my, okay? And he's at. He's not in, right? If he were in Kings County, he would be in the ground. He'd be dead, right? He's at Kings County or whatever. I think he was actually in Bronx County. But regardless, right, at all of these places. Now, post offices, those are federal routing numbers. That has nothing to do with anybody living, okay? So you're near a post office, but you're not in the post office district. You're near it, right? Again, simple things, not a make or break, but it keeps you in the right frame of mind. Yeah, that's right. I'm a man. I'm not in the ground. I'm at these places, right? So, and then it goes to who it's going to, and how are we sending it? By certified mail. Let me pull this thing down real quick and pull this other thing up. This is a certified mail slip if you're not familiar. You want to make sure that you can prove that you actually mailed something to them. And if you want to take it a step further, you would want to use this return receipt. You could do registered mail, which I believe is a little more expensive, but this return receipt, basically what happens is when someone gets it, they've got to sign for it, or they're supposed to, and then your address would go here, and this would get sent back to you with a signature on it, thereby giving you some proof that I sent it and it was received. Not only did I send it, right, that's your certified mail, you could prove you sent it. That's usually what I do. It's less expensive. It's simple. I've never had anybody try to challenge, I didn't get it. But you could take it a step further and get that return receipt. So you send it by a method that proves that you sent it. And now, so what am I saying? I lawfully ask you again, because remember, this is the fourth notice we've sent these people, right? We're running out of patience now. I lawfully ask you again, who's the man or woman that will testify that they loaned me money and I failed to repay? That's a legitimate question. That's a lawful question. Can you imagine people like, oh, you don't have the right to ask that? What do you mean I don't have the right to ask that? I don't have the right to ask who it is, who's the man or woman that's claiming that I owe them? Of course you have that right. We all know you have that right. So I'm asking questions I got the right to ask. I lawfully continue to require, right? I'm not requesting, I'm not pleading. No, I require this. As a man, my requirement is that the man or the woman that's making the claim against me makes themselves known to me. That's not crazy. That's not unreasonable. Perfectly lawful. I lawfully ask you again, can you show me how the electronic document you sent to me, right, in a promissory note, that's their term, so that's why it's in brackets and quotations. Promissory, I don't know what a promissory note is. You said you sent me a promissory note. So can you show me how that, first of all, it's an electronic document. What is that? That's a copy, okay, not an original. Can you show me how that electronic document is valid, right, true, right, and enforceable, while also being unsigned by a notary or a second party? Because you see, the promissory note that they sent to George was unsigned. There's space down there for a notary, no signature, and there's space for someone else's signature, because usually when you have an agreement, right, there's at least two parties. Oh, it was only George's signature on there. So can you show me how that copy is valid, true, and enforceable, while also being unsigned by anybody but one individual, George? It's not. But instead of me saying, oh, that's not legal, now I'm arguing. Now I may have to try to prove that. I ain't trying to do none of that. I'm asking you, can you show me how that is valid, true, and enforceable, given those things about it that we both can see? I lawfully continue to require to inspect the authentic, original, properly executed note. And I require to know who is the person entitled to enforce. That's Pete. Okay, that's Pete. That's from, I believe, 2 videos ago. I was mentioning the His Advocate stuff, and I said, are they a Pete, a person entitled to enforce, right? Because, think about it. You got an agreement between 2 people. Some other person wants to come along and say, you owe them. Who are you? The person entitled to enforce is the person that I got the agreement with, or their authorized lawful representative. So who is that individual? I want to know who that person is. You still ain't told me. This is 4 notices in. I've not received responses to my lawful questions. My lawful requirements have not been met. Statement of fact. Right? You can state things that are obvious, easy facts. I shall agree, and this is important. You always want to be honorable. You always want to be agreeing. Don't give anybody the excuse to say, well, he doesn't want to pay. Nope, I'm telling you right now. I agree now to pay any debt owed by me to any man or woman, right? Chase Bank's not a man or a woman now, is it, right? The Department of Education is not a man or a woman. Reliant is not a man or a woman, right? I agree to pay any man or woman if that debt is validated. Validated is shown to be true, proven to be legitimate, okay? I require proof of claim. And now I'm going to specify because they've been dodging it for 3 notices now. So I'm going to make it real dum-dum proof. I require proof of claim which must include responses to my lawful questions and meeting my requirements listed above within 30 days. Totally reasonable. I've already given them 30 days a couple of times, right? If proof of claim is not received within 30 days, then the matter is discharged with prejudice. What does that mean, right? It didn't say dismissed. If I dismiss you, I might call you back, right? Discharge, right? So if I charge you with a crime, now you're charged like an ion, like an atom, right? It will now stick to things, right? Charging, the words, man, I'll tell you, that's another conversation. Discharged with prejudice, meaning you can't come back in a year and be like, oh, I found it. Sorry, dude, you had your chance, okay? Discharged with prejudice. Any further communication about the matter may be considered, I'm not threatening you with trespass. I'm saying it may be considered a trespass against me by way of harassment. It may be. I affirm all of this to be true, and I will verify all to be true at a court of record. That's a court of common law. This notice was prepared by I, in good faith. We like to write out the date. And I attached the previous notice that I had sent them just in case they forgot. Right? So that's a quick breakdown on the thought behind that. We're going to keep going. I got some other juicy stuff to show you. You got to learn how to do this stuff. This is super powerful. There's a lot to learn beyond this. But this is a tool in your hand if you can just wrap your head around this stuff, and I know you can. Next one coming mighty soon.